All right, good evening. Thank you very much for your wonderful company tonight. Welcome to EBN Prime Edition. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. I'm sitting in for Gaston Wabomba tonight. We've got quite an extensive coverage of news making headlines across the country. Let's kick it off with the day's top stories. Court denies Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua orders to halt his impeachment proceedings as Senate counts down to 2 days hearing session. Race to succeed Rigathi Gachagua heats up. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi fronted for the position for appointment. Senate Speaker Amason Kingi directs Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja to arrest and present Isiolo County Governor Abdi Guyo before the Senate. He has forfeited Senate summon a number of times. Talk to us across our feedback lines. SMS number is 23059. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. EBN Prime Edition kicks off right now. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is a man running out of options as the High Court yet again declined to halt the impeachment proceedings against him at the Senate. In his 23rd case in court, embattled Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua sought orders to bar the Senate from hearing the impeachment charges, poking holes into the manner in which the process has been hastened, as well as questioning the public participation that was done by the National Assembly. This now means the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, will defend himself against allegations presented as grounds for his ouster when the motion comes to the floor of the Senate on Wednesday and Thursday, in accordance with the program drawn by the clerk.
Consider the application and argument by parties, the Constitution and the President, the prayer for grant of conservatory order is declined. However, in view of the issues raised in this petition, which also appear to relate to those in petition E522 of 2024, which has been certified for purpose of appointing a bench of an even number of judges to hear, I certify this petition as raising substantial questions of law and of public interest in terms of Article 165 sub-Article 4 of the Constitution. This file is to be placed before the Honorable Chief Justice to consider appointing an uneven number of judges to hear this petition. Given the close proximity of the issues in this petition and those in petition E522, the Honorable Chief Justice may consider whether this petition may be heard by the same bench appointed to hear petition E522. I make no orders on course. Thank you.
Now, the Senate will begin the critical proceedings on the impeachment motion against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, moved by Kibwezi West Member of Parliament Mwengi Mutuse, and is set to unfold within 2 days, with Thursday reserved for the final decision of this particular motion. This comes after the court granted pass for the continuation of the motion by the Senate, regardless of the 23 petitions to seize the impeachment. Our reporter Caroline Modoni has more details on the order of business for Wednesday and Thursday at the Senate.
The Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment motion by the Senate is set to start early Wednesday at 9 a.m., where there will be a pre-hearing meeting for senators. At 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., there will be an introduction session for members of the National Assembly, as well as the Deputy President and his council. Afterwards, from 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., charges against the Deputy President will be read before the Senate by the mover of the motion, Mwengi Mutuse, which includes economic crime, abuse of office, and constitutional violations, among others. At 11 a.m. to 12 noon, there will be an opening statement on behalf of the National Assembly and the Deputy President. From 12 noon to 1 p.m., MP Mwengi Mutuse will present his evidence regarding the charges filed against the Deputy President before the Senate. After a 1 hour 30 minutes lunch break, the presentation of the evidence by Mwengi Mutuse will continue from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Key witnesses are expected to testify against the Deputy President, including Andrew Mudhwa, former CEO of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority (KEMSA), who alleges Gachagua'S interference in a 3.7 billion mosquito net tender. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, who accuses the Deputy President on citing citizens obstructing county operations. Mercy Wanjao, Secretary of the Cabinet, who claims that Gachagua opposed a government-approved evacuation of residents near Nairobi River. From 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., there will be questions and requests for clarity posed by the Senate regarding the evidence presented. The impeachment motion by the Senate will continue on Thursday morning from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. as they kickstart to the evidence presented by the Deputy President in his defense against the charges by Mwengi Mutuse, which will run till 3:30 p.m. Later at 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., there will be a debate on the motion by the Senate where voting will be conducted to determine Gachagua'S impeachment fate. Muthoni Caroline reporting for EBN News.
Now, survival is all about game of numbers. So the impeachment is more of a political process rather than a legal process. That said, analysts who have even been on this place, EBN TV, have opined that the Senate is more sober-minded to look at the facts and evidence provided before making decisions. So tonight we interrogate if the Deputy President has the numbers that are required to save him. Now, it's done and dusted at the floor of the National Assembly, so it moves now to the Senate. Now, there are two ways about it. One, 47 elected senators will be the ones to vote for this particular motion and the charges that have been labeled against the Deputy President, including gross misconduct. They say, the Deputy President as well as violated some of the sections of the Constitution, as well as has contributed to disunity in the country by preaching tribal politics. These are some of the allegations by Member of Parliament who's the mover of that particular motion, that is Mwengi Mutuse, Kibwezi West Member of Parliament. So what we have here is a sample of the Senate, because now the decision lies basically with the House of the Senate. Now, as I've said, it's done and dusted at the floor of the National Assembly. So what the Deputy President will be hoping is that he can get the numbers, enough numbers for that matter, to save him from this particular impeachment. Now, interestingly, this comes just a few hours after Kericho County Governor Eric Mutai was saved. What was the decision by the Senate is that 2/3 of the members of the County Assembly of Kericho was not met. They signed 31 members of Parliament to impeach the governor, but the Constitution required 32. So, as I've said, impeachment is all about games of numbers. Now, if we kick it off with the 47 elected senators, we've got a drawing here of some of the parties within the floor of the National Assembly. Now, forgive us for this typo, but ODM party contributes about 13 members of Parliament, members of Senate, elected for that matter, while UDA party contributes 23 elected senators to the floor of the Senate. Now, for Jubilee party, it contributes 3 elected senators. Wiper party contributes 3 elected senators. The Democratic Party has got 1 elected senator. Ford Kenya, 1 elected senator. The National Reconstruction Alliance has got 1 senator, as well as the Democratic Party, UDM, United Democratic Movement has got 1 senator. Now, if the Deputy President was to survive, the Constitution requires 2/3 of members of the Senate to vote for this motion for him not to survive. And so that means if 32 senators, elected senators for that matter, were to vote for this particular motion, the Deputy President goes home. However, if just 31 senators vote for this motion, and that means, on the other hand, the Deputy President will have garnered 16 senators, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua survives the impeachment, and that will be the end of that. And so with 47 elected senators, depending on the direction that the Speaker of the Senate, Amason Kingi, will give, That means 32 senators are required to vote for the impeachment of the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. But if 31 senators or 30 or anything below 32, that means if Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua marshals at least 16 senators, then he will survive. Now, the reason I've given an example of 47 elected senators, this is because listening into the impeachment hearing of the Kericho County Governor, to which the senator directed that the 47 elected senators or delegated counties vote for the impeachment. And that means only 47 senators or the elected senators were allowed to vote for this particular impeachment. And this did not include nominated senators. However, let's talk about now all senators. This includes nominated senators to the floor of the Senate. Now, if you look at the trend that is with what happened at the floor of the National Assembly, even nominated members of parliament were allowed, to vote. And so if at all the directions are given and that even the 67 senators who could just be more than observers and, participate in the debate rather than the voting, if all 67 senators, including nominated senators, were to vote for the impeachment, the rule applies, the 2/3 majority rule applies, and this means 45 senators are required to vote for this particular impeachment motion. So that will bring you back to these particular numbers. Like I've said, the ODM members at the floor of the National Assembly, if you include the ones that have been nominated as well, is at 20, while those of UDA is at 31. And so you need to ask yourself, where does he get this, 45, or at least where does the Senate get 45 senators who will now, vote for his impeachment? Now, remember, the trend at the National Assembly, again, majority of UDA members of parliament voted, for his ouster. ODM members of parliament as well voted for his ouster. Now, interestingly, Jubilee, party members are still on the fence on whether, to vote him out or vote him in. The same now applies for Wiper Party, which, by the way, the party leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, is very much against this particular impeachment. So if he's able to, secure this particular 4 and secure this 4, then he might as well manage to secure some within the ODM party as well as some within the United Democratic Alliance, because there's those senators who have been working with him and are against this particular impeachment motion. So what the Deputy President needs is 23 senators for him to survive this impeachment. If he gets 22, then he goes home, because the 2/3 majority will not have been met. And so if at least 44 senators vote for this particular impeachment, then he survives, because what is required is 45 senators to be able to vote for this particular impeachment motion. And so that is how the game of numbers is likely to play out, depending on whether or not they will go all 67 senators or at least 47 senators. Well, we've listened into legal professionals who've got varying views about this. We've had Moses Kimanzi, a lawyer on this studio, who said all 67 senators are required to vote. We've had the likes of Donald Kipkorir, who's a lawyer as well, who says just the 47 are likely to vote. And so that is something that we'll be looking out for at the floor of the Senate, on whether all 67 senators will be voting or just the elected senators will be voting. And just one more time, perhaps to take you through the numbers, if the 47 elected senators vote for this particular impeachment, then the Deputy President needs 16 senators for his survival, and that means 32 senators, if he's to be impeached, 32 senators are required, and that's the 2/3 majority met. Now, if all 67 senators, that includes both nominated and elected senators, are to vote for this particular impeachment motion, then the Deputy President requires 23 senators to survive. But if he's not able to meet that 23, then that means 45 senators would have voted for his impeachment, and that's the 2/3 majority which has been met. So all eyes will be on this particular floor, and that is of the Senate. Everything is done and dusted at the floor of the National Assembly. And now, depending on how they vote, because that is something that they will be doing on Thursday evening, and so by the time you're going to bed on Thursday night, you will be knowing whether or not the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua survives or not. And so just a day after Central Imenti Member of Parliament Moses Kirima intimated of plans to replace the embattled Rigathi Gachagua, the Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki if the former gets impeached. Clergy leaders from Western Kenya have now fronted Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi for the position. The leaders have asked the President, William Ruto, to expand his options and not only settle for leaders from Mount Kenya.
Ikiwa kwa sababu moja au nyingine, Seneti itashikilia msimamo wa bunge la kitaifa, Rais ana uwezo wa kumteua mtu ambaye anastahiki kutoka sehemu yoyote ya nchi, wala sio lazima atoke katika eneo fulani, na rais awe free katika kuangalia pembe zote aone ni yupi ambaye anastahiki. Hata kama ataweza kuangalia katika eneo hii ya magharibi, tatizo liko wapi? Kwa sababu na sisi huku pia tuna wale ambao wanastahiki, wanafaa, wana ujuzi, wana tajriba na wamewahi kujaribiwa.
Hata sisi vile vile huku kwetu magharibi tunasema sisi vile vile itakuwa bora sana akiwa ni mtu wetu ambaye sisi wenyewe tunaona kwamba kuna kijana wetu pale amekaa karibu, na hata ilifika wakati wakasema kwamba yeye ni mmoja katika ile serikali ambayo ilibakia. Kwa hivyo kijana wetu kama vile vile atapewa hiyo nafasi, tutashukuru sana Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi.
Now, at the same time, a group referring to itself as Women Peace Ambassadors from Mount Kenya region is calling upon President William Ruto to appoint Kirinyaga County Governor Anne Waiguru as his deputy should Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua be impeached. Speaking at a press conference in Nairobi on Tuesday morning, the group said it is time for Kenya to be ruled, or rather to have a female deputy president, adding that Waiguru is the best qualified successor. They emphasize that the deputy president's position should remain within central Kenya, maintaining its ties to the community. Now, group members say Gachagua played a significant role in President William Ruto's election victory.
Tuombi kitumbua kiingie mchanga, lakini iwapo tungependa mazuri yetu ambayo Madam Waiguru amekuwa akitupatia ayapeleke pia kwa national. Ayapeleke kwa national, because if you look at qualifications for all the people who are talking of showing interest in this position, I don't think there is anyone qualified like our madam.
Kuna mama ambaye ni wa nguvu na ni our governor Anne Waiguru. Na ndio tunaomba juu ni mama mfanyikazi. Ukikuja hapa Kirinyaga, magavana hao wengine wote walikuwa wanakuja hapa Kirinyaga kuona maendeleo yenye amefanya. Ametujengea masoko, amejenga hospitali, ukienda matauni zote za Kirinyaga kuko na cabros, ukienda kuko na security iko, ukiona pahali pengine kuna project za fisheries ziko na industrial park. Kwa hivyo huyu ni mama ambaye ni mfanyakazi na mama ambaye ako na bidii. Na sisi tunaomba awe mfanyikazi wa Kenya yote. Juu ako na nguvu na ako na uwezo na ako na ujuzi na ujasiri wa kufanya kama mama.
Now, to other stories making headlines, Senate Speaker Amason Kingi has ordered Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja to arrest and present Governor Abdi Ibrahim Guyo of Isiolo County before the Senate. This ruling came after Governor Guyo repeatedly failed to appear before Senate committees. Now, the Speaker ruled that Governor's appearances before the committee are not a favor to the House. Kingi stated that the IG must, in exercise to his mandate pursuant to Article 245(2)(b) of the Constitution, extend the necessary support to the committees in order to secure the appearance of the governor. Additionally, he mentioned it is also expected that if the call to courts become necessary, such actions will robustly be pursued in courts as well.
Is that you should actually have ordered the Inspector General of Police to search and produce the governor, wherever he is, if he is in Isiolo, Dubai, whichever part of the world he is in, Mr. Speaker, until he is produced here before the Senate. But given that this is a matter that is presently before various committees, then I agree with your wisdom, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I expect that at the next sitting of any of these committees that the governor has defied, the chairperson alongside the members will draft the summons and ask the Inspector General of Police to produce that governor,
requiring that each committee then contacts the Inspector General of Police to produce the governor before them, the Speaker, that may be a bit of a tall order. My thing is, the Speaker, would be, if it were possible, there are two options. One, either a motion is brought before this House, so the House passes a resolution requiring the Inspector General of Police to arrest and produce the governor, or alternatively, Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the liaison committee, where all the chairmen of committees sit, takes up the matter with the Inspector General of Police.
The powers in this House. Article 125, our Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, Section 19 and 18, gives us that power. We have penalized this, or we have fined this governor, I think twice now. That's 1 million shillings. We want to know whether that person, whether he has paid that to the clerk of the House. Mr. Speaker, we have a police station which is domiciled in the presence of Parliament. Why can't we authorize that? I know the law does not allow us to direct the Inspector General of Police, but I believe that the powers given to us by the Constitution, Article 125, where we sit like a high court, we can be able to compel that witness to appear.
Now, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, issued a fresh update on prices of super petrol, kerosene and diesel, as all three experienced a significant drop. The biggest change saw super petrol reduced by 18 shillings from 188 shillings to 180.66. Diesel reduced by 3.5 shillings to 171 shillings, or from 171, pardon me, to 168.06 shillings. Meanwhile, kerosene also experienced a drop, going from 158.3 to 151.39, and that is in Nairobi. Now, if you switch to Nakuru, the prices in Nakuru now, super petrol will retail at 179.87, diesel will retail at 167.63, while kerosene will retail at 151.01 shillings. Now to Eldoret, super petrol will retail at 180.68, diesel at 168.45, while kerosene will retail at 151.82 shillings. While finally in Mombasa, where super petrol will retail at 177.42 shillings, diesel at 164.82 shillings, and kerosene will retail at 148.15. The Public University Workers Union on Tuesday threatened to stage nationwide demonstrations if the government fails to honor the agreement reached between the union leaders and the government in September this year. The unions, including the University Academic Staff Union and the Kenya University's Staff Union, faulted the government, accusing it of negligence despite initially promising to fulfill their demands. In a press briefing, the union leaders claimed that despite several attempts to compel the government into action, their demands were yet to be met, leaving them with no option other than industrial action.
We sat down with the government and agreed on a return to work formula, which was drawn between the government and the unions concerned. To date, one of the items we agreed on very seriously was that we would begin implementing the salary, the agreed salaries, 7 to 10% of our members' salaries by October. We are concerned the time is running out and the government seems to be focused on other issues and not focusing on the very important issues of education.
And we are giving the government only 1 week to implement that return to work formula. Today is 15th, and our members expect new salaries next week. The universities know what they are supposed to pay, and we don't expect anything less than what we negotiated for. I want to caution universities, never ever try to implement or pay October salary without factoring 7 to 10%.
At the same time, the Kenya National Union of Nurses in Nyamira County have issued a 2-week strike notice to the county government on grounds of job stagnation, failure by the county government to honor the collective bargaining agreement CBA, and harassment at workplaces. While addressing the media, the Nyamira caucus has faulted the county government of negligence and refusal to meet the group to discuss the underlying issues.
Solidarity forever. Tumetoa ilani ya mgomo ambao utaanza tarehe 28 kwa sababu ya serikali ya Nyamira kukosa kuwapandisha vyeo wanachama wetu, kwa sababu tena ya kuwakata training levy ambayo ni kinyume cha sheria, tena kukataa kuwalipa arrears zenye zimetokana na kucheleweshwa kupandishwa vyeo hivyo. Ukosefu wa nurses wenye wako wanasumbuka sana, maana ni wachache. Kukosa kutekeleza, kuna ile tunaita CPA, tulikuwa tumenegotiate na hao, wamekataa kuja tupate kukamilisha hiyo.
Kuna wafanyikazi waliajiriwa almost 2 years ago. Saa hii tumekuja kugundua ya kwamba sababu hawako wamejiunga na union na serikali itaki waingie union, au wamekuja kulalamika wakisema kwamba hawajawahi lipwa kwa mishahara yao kwa miezi 5, wengine miezi 6, wengine miezi 7.
We agreed that 282 nurses shall all be promoted, because when we get an analysis to analyze the data of nurses who have stagnated, we find that majority of the nurses have stagnated for 17 years, 15 years, up to date.
Now, a Court of Appeal judge is among jurists who have added their voices for the total abolition of the death penalty in Kenya, emphasizing its ineffectiveness as deterrent to crime and its contradiction to human rights standards. Speaking during the commemoration of the World Day Against the Death Penalty, Justice John Mativo noted the growing global trend towards its abolition. Despite Kenya's moratorium on execution since 1987, advocates are pushing for the country to completely remove the death penalty from its laws. Human rights groups and international partners are also challenging the government to take decisive steps towards a more rehabilitative and humane justice system.
And they've been there for as long as they can remember. So that's why there is a significant move worldwide for abolition of the death penalty. It's quite inhuman, it's degrading, it's irreversible. And most countries in the world have abolished it, and even the ones which have it in the law books, people are sentenced to death, but they are not executed. So you find there's a reluctance to execute them. But recently, that was in 2017, our own Supreme Court made a significant decision, a landmark decision, whereby they outlawed the death penalty in murder cases. So persons convicted of the offense of murder have been given the window to apply for resentencing, and many of them have been resentenced to definite jail terms. Otherwise, we are looking forward to more development of the law, to a situation whereby we eliminate the death penalty from our law books, but that's the only way to go about it.
166 people on death row in Kenya, 3 of them being women, the rest being men. And having heard that Kenya has not executed anyone since 1987, we are urging that Kenya moves towards total abolition, as much as we are now having a moratorium.
I'd like to commend the ICJ for organizing this event, as we all striving to abolish death penalty worldwide. You mentioned that France has abolished death penalty since 40 years. But I would like to say also that the European Union is a death penalty-free area. Member states of the European Union have all abolished death penalty.
Now, as the world commemorates the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, cancer patients and survivors are calling on the government to employ more resources in social, economic, and health support for such patients. Due to the expensive nature of treating and managing the disease, now the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Dr. Deborah Mulongo, who graced the event at the Bomola grounds in Bungoma County, said the government is committed in supporting cancer treatment through the new Social Health Insurance Fund. Our reporter Duncan Koba has more.
At the Bumula grounds, Bungoma County, the Breast Cancer Awareness Month graced by the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Dr. Deborah Mulongo. Cancer patients and survivors who attended the event hit out the new Social Health Insurance Fund for not taking care of cancer patients, unlike NHIF, which supported the patients for at least 100,000 shillings per person.
Napata saizi wale wenye wanaenda kwa treatment imekuwa ni ngumu sana kwa sababu ya hii rollout ya SHA na from NHIF. Wengi haifanyi kazi na unapata wagonjwa wengi wako nyumbani wanaumia.
Watu wakishaambiwa uko na kansa, what next? Serikali ishughulike, huyo mtu aanzishwe matibabu mapema, kwa sababu ukienda hospitali leo uambiwe sasa umepatikana na kansa, ni matibabu. Matibabu ni pesa, hiyo pesa hakuna.
Dr. Mulongo said that the government, through the new medical cover, is committed in ensuring that all Kenyans get quality health services, including cancer patients.
Zamani ungeenda kwa hospitali kama leo tunasema mambo ya kansa, unaambiwa toa 400,000, toa 600,000. Mimi nilikuwa daktari, nilikuwa naona, na wagonjwa wangeniuliza tutoe wapi, tufanye nini, unaona. Lakini na hii Social Health Insurance inahakikisha Wakenya wote wanaweza pata huduma. Na sasa ndio maana tunasema to register so that we can access services.
Unlike the myths and beliefs that cancer is like death sentence, the survivors gives an array of hope for those going through the medication, as they call on Kenyans to go for early cancer screening.
There is stigmatization there in the village. Like mtu ana imagine cancer is a curse. Cancer is a curse, and pia mtu anaona ni laana. Like mtu akiwa na cancer ako na laana ama ni uchawi. So I want to tell people ya kwamba kansa ni ugonjwa na inaweza katibika na mtu anaweza akapona.
Ugonjwa wa saratani ni wengi sana. Na unapata hospitali ambazo zinatibu saratani, unapata wengine wanalala hata wanawekewa dawa kama wamesimama ama wameketi, ambapo ni kitu ambayo inachukiza sana. So daktari, hospitali zinafaa expandiwe, ziongezwe na vitanda viongezwe.
I've gone 2 weeks without medication. When will I ever get the medication?
The national government and Bungoma County government were on defense as the community health volunteer decry for their 6-month delay dues, as the government is mounting pressure on them to register residents on the new health insurance mode.
Unavyoongeza hii, tayari watu wameanza kulipwa. Tunataka tulipe kwanza mwezi 5. Kisha baadaye tutamalizia ile inabaki. Na gavana amesema anataka kufanya juu chini, hakikishe kila mwezi mnalipwa.
Duncan Koba for EBN News from Bungumula Grounds, Bungoma County.
All right, thank you very much, Koba, for that particular report. And that brings us to the end of our broadcast tonight. I hope that you're up to date with what is making headlines across various parts of the country. We'll be keeping tabs with the Gachagua impeachment. We'll be having that wall-to-wall coverage right here, because Wednesday and Thursday, such a critical day for the second in command. He will know his fate, whether he remains in office or goes home. So unprecedented moment in the country with that particular impeachment question. So we're having that on our wall-to-wall coverage on Wednesday and Thursday. Allow me to wrap it up at that point. Thank you for watching. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. Good night. God bless.